Very good morning, dear children. Dear children, we are on the last module of our chapter on equality. Children, we talked about in this chapter regarding equality and we discussed this with the help of a story of Kanta, a domestic worker. Find how she finds herself equal in a voting line, but the moment she goes to a hospital, there she has to stand in a long queue. Fine. Then we talked about the universal adult franchise. What is it? Fine. Then after that we talked about the other kinds of equality. Fine. Here we discussed two stories of how people are discriminated on the basis of their caste, their surname, and all. Fine. Caste system still prevails in India. We say that we are educated, but still we are practicing it. Fine, children. And then, children, we discuss the next topic. Here, two stories we have discussed: Om Prakash Valmiki's story and Mr. and Mrs. Ansari's stories. Then we talked about recognizing dignity. We discussed that dignity, which means a self respect of a person, should not be violated. Fine, we should always take care of others as well as own self respect. Fine. Then equality in Indian democracy. What the Constitution says regarding inequality. Constitution says that everybody is equal, whether the person belongs to any caste, any religion, any tribe, any educational or economic background. So we discuss this also. Fine. How the constitution work on it? See, constitution either makes some laws or constitution makes some schemes and programs. So the laws are there that the untouchability is abolished, nobody can practice this. And if we talk about the schemes or programs, so here we took an example of midday meal, how the government has started a midday meal program just to uh, less the discrimination uh, around. Fine. And it started from the government school, how in a government school cooked food is being provided to the people. Now we are on the last topic, children: issues of equality in other democracies. We were talking about your Indian democracy, but there were issues of equality in other democracies too. Fine. Now you will be thinking that India is the only democratic country in the world where inequality and where inequality is there, and where people have to struggle for equality is still continuing. But children, if you talk about the world, we have many more examples. The truth is this, that around the world also, issue of equality, it's continuing, and it's the key issue around some communities struggle. Fine. If you take an example of United States of America, here the African Americans whose ancestors were the slaves and they were brought from Africa, they continue to describe their life today as largely unequal. So these African Americans, they also find themselves unequal in America. Fine. Now there was a movement in late 1950s which pushed for, which talked about, which gave momentum to the equal rights of African Americans. Fine. Prior to this, the African Americans, they were treated very badly. Children in United States of America, they were denied of equality. Fine. And even when they were traveling in the bus, they had to give the seat, they had to either sit at the back of the bus, or they used to get up when some white person wants to sit. So this type of discrimination they were facing. But there was a lady, Rosa Parks. She was also an African American woman, and after a long day of work, she was traveling in a bus and she refused to give the seat to a white man. And this happened on 1st December 1955. Her refusal that day, it started a very big movement against the unequal ways in which the African Americans were treated. So it was the lady who started this movement, children. Fine. And this movement was known to came to be known as the civil rights movement. Fine. The Civil Right Act at the end was passed in 1964, and it prohibited the discrimination which was happening on the basis of race, religion, and national origin. It said that all the schools now will be open for African American children, and they do now no longer they have to attend a separate school. And despite this, a majority of African Americans, they still continue to be the poorest in the country. So most African American children, they can only afford to attend the government schools only, that the fewer facilities they were having there. Fine. And in the government schools they were having poorly qualified teachers as compared to the white students, who either, now the white one, they had money, so they go to the private schools. They live in very good areas where the government schools are highly rated as private schools. So this way a lot of struggle they had to face. Now children, challenge for democracy, the last. Now see what article 15 says of the Indian constitution, that nobody can be discriminate on the basis of any ground. Fine. No citizen uh, access to shops and all should be given to all. Everybody can use the wells, tanks, bathing ghats, or all. Fine. Last is challenge of democracy. So no country can be described as being completely democratic, children, because exceptions are always there. There are always communities and individuals try to expand the idea of democracy and push for a greater recognition of equality and existing as well as new issues. There are some societies, there are some people, individuals, those who really want equality, and they are not treated in that way. Central to this is the struggle of recognition of all persons as equal and for their dignities to be maintained. And what is the central idea? The central idea is everybody should be given equality and everybody should be given treated with dignity. Fine. In this book, children, you are going to read about the issues, how the issues of equality, they have affected various aspects of our daily life. Still we are in a democratic India. Fine. So as you read you will be reading these chapter, you will be thinking about whether equality of all persons and their being able to maintain their dignity is upheld or not. So this was all about today's topic, children, the end of civics chapter 1. Thank you and have a nice day.